The Brownie apple's going ballistic. It's not really big because we haven't had much rain, but if we do get some rain, I suspect they will swell up enormously. There's a number of Cookie's pippins. I should have thinned them out, I think. What are they? Gauges or green gauges, just about ripe, but not quite, still quite hard. And a lovely colour. And the plums are beginning to ripen, but again, I think it's probably another couple of weeks before they're soft enough to eat. They're still quite hard. And here are the first of the autumn crocuses, the colchicums. Just the flowers, the leaves are produced in summertime, and these just come like ghosts on their own. Very shortly there'll be lots and lots and lots of them. These are the first of the mesembryanthemums, the Livingston daisies. When the sun goes in, they close up really quickly. When the sun comes out, they open up really quickly. And they come in sort of multiple colours. Some more cerise. With cornflowers. A little bee on them. That's how small some of these bees are. A lovely blue colour, cornflower blue. This flower has appeared again. I do like it. And this rather gaudy thing, it looks like a bit like a hollyhock. I suspect it probably is. One of those lines that one of those lines that honey guards leading the bees into the nectar down at the bottom. And some different marigolds. Small but brilliantly yellow. Lovely. I have no idea what these are. There's a pink one and a yellow one, but they're obviously belong to the same species. Now we've had a bit of rain. These Brownie apples are putting on some kind of growth spurt. The buddleia is all but finished. What a disappointing year for butterflies. I've only seen one peacock butterfly. Normally this used to be covered with them. Whether it's the effect of the heat or the drought, I have no idea, but very poor. Same with the moths. Put the moth trap out the other night, got two. Russets of all these Cookie's pippins. They do look very appetising. Masses of braeburns. These are haws on a hawthorn tree. They're sort of small, miserable versions of the ones we usually get, all sort of plump and soft. We'll wait and see what happens over the coming weeks. This is a separate hawthorn, obviously been getting more water. You can see there how the haws are nice and plump and round, ready for the birds in winter time. We're growing in the woodland is some marjoram. I don't know where it came from, an Italian herb. Still, it's nice to see. There's a grey squirrel appears in the garden. In fact, quite often it's 2 or 3 of them. And one of them seems to be more often. And I kept wondering when it was hanging out anyway. So it didn't give away. It's a great pile of nutshells, fresh. And they're right underneath. That back box up there. So it's squeezing through that little hole there, that little slot. Well, I've had a bit of a breeze the last couple of days. The lawn is strewn with plums. Not the best plums, I have to say. The ones that blow off there's usually something damaged about them. And it's the same with the green gages. They're kind of plum, they're all over the lawn. They don't look too good, but they're quite small. Might end up making some green gage jam. They always look nice, but they're not crisp. They're quite a mushy sort of apple, if you like, as opposed to crisp Braeburns and crisp Cox's Pippins. So I just leave these to the birds. Might use some in cooking at some time. I mean, to bake well. With there being a drought, they're very moist, and the birds like them. Maybe the hedgehogs quite like them, but I haven't seen a hedgehog this year at all. Tragic. And that is the solitary pair for this year. Last year we got 6. This year we've got 1. Well, got 1 so far. It might fall off yet. And of course the next big job will be to give this yew hedge its annual cut. So I'll leave that until September. It's the 27th of August, and despite all this talk about people not having enough money to buy food and so on, this tree is dripping with plums, and nobody wants them. You can't give them away. All these apples are falling off again. There's people, if they want some apples, and again, nobody seems to want them. Anyway, the birds seem to be enjoying, the blackbirds in particular. They're quite sweet, these apples, they're quite soft, but they don't keep. This Boston ivy continues its relentless march up onto the roof. It's just beginning to turn. In a month's time the colours will be superb. And then when all the leaves have fallen off, all that lot up there will be to strip off again. It's an annual chore. A yellow one, resembling some and a white one. I mean, normally all of these would be in flower and you get a wonderful display, but with a drought, and we haven't had any rain now for weeks, everything is suffering badly. It's a shame. Purple hazel, an ornamental one, it produces purple nuts, or nuts with a sort of purple case. It would be nice if the nuts inside were purple, that would be quite unusual. Unfortunately they're not. They're just like every other hazelnut, white. These Braeburn continue to expand. If we get some rain, I suspect they'll grow quite quickly. At the moment they're quite small, but by goodness, a lot of them. And brambles, millions of them. They're very nice, but you can't eat a bowl of these every day. Some of the oak trees are doing quite well despite the drought. This one, for instance, and it's produced a few acorns. I can collect them and see if I can propagate this tree. It's obviously a bit more successful in these drought conditions. And if we get more and more of them, as people are suggesting, this might be a tree that this is a hole in one of these maple trees which the woodpecker made 2 years ago for putting nuts in and then bashing all in them. And even though the main nut harvest is more than a month away, end of September, beginning of October, I see it's been picking a few. I see it's already started. Maybe it's just having a trial run just to make sure everything is okay. Cheeky blater. Fortunately, the tree doesn't seem to be suffering. Well, that hole gets bigger every year. Later in the year, no doubt, there'll be a monumental pile of shells here. The maple has produced these winged fruits. Lots of them. Fortunately, very few of them germinate, otherwise you'd have a veritable forest of them. Delicious plums and greengages. Little greengage, little translucent yellow. Incredibly sweet. Stryer plum. Victoria. Victoria plum. Delicious. Such indulgence. I normally make jam with them, but I've got enough jam to keep me going for years. It's such a waste. And more brambles. And coming up the ears shortly. And more beans. Yeah, sign up for the climate change. Huge field of asparagus up here in North Yorkshire. Only a Mediterranean plant. And more of it. This is obviously only recently been planted. So it might be a couple of years before it's in full production. And wisely, they've got an electric fence around it. Wow, that's amazing. When I knew we had asparagus growing in this part of the world, but I never imagined for a minute that it was on this kind of scale. And of course, being a Mediterranean plant, it obviously hasn't suffered very much in this drought. But one of the benefits of climate change. Asparagus, what else have we got? Oilseed rape, corn on the cob, or maize as it's called. None of these would be growing up in this part of the world were it not for the warming of the climate. So there are some benefits to it. A lot more colchicum. These autumn crocuses. Yeah, lovely. This sort of pale lilac. And there you can see the Boston ivy is beginning to turn on the gable end of the house. The birds haven't really begun to attack this rowan tree yet. There's still a great mass of berries. Wonderful. As soon as we get a little bit of harsh weather, these will disappear in about a week. But these flowers, which I grew from seed, show no signs of flowering yet, this being the 4th of September. I will just name a wallflower. Be nice to see what they are. There's strawberries here. They must have been on here for about 10 or 15 years, maybe more. So the ground will be just about exhausted, I think. So these need taking up, and the ground will need rejuvenating. Lots of compost. Now I'm going to shift the strawberries to here, where the flowers were. Great mass of dandelions emerging, and chickweed seedlings everywhere. The beans are about finished now. a freezer full of them. And when they've been taken out, I'll rotivate this whole lot here. Well, kill these weeds first of all, and move the strawberries to here. Sitting on this pile of grass is a comma butterfly, I think. See if I can get close to it before it zooms off. See if there's anything under this tin sheet. Not yet. Oh, there's a mouse's nest there. Vole or mouse's nest under this one. I won't disturb it. And something's been eating the leaves of this oak tree right off. I wonder what it is. I can't see any sign of anything. Here's that teasel. It's drying off. The birds will eat the seeds in the winter time. Hopefully. And this hawthorn hedge is due its second cut. It's amazing how much growth they put on, particularly when it's been such dry weather. Oh, we had a lot of rain last night. But when you look at it, you've only got to go down a couple of inches and it's still as dry as dust. There are a few plums left on the tree, but the vast majority of them are lying all over the blooming lawn and will have to be raked up once they start rotting on the grass and become a bit of a problem. Well, we've had a lot of rain recently and grass is beginning to grow again, and it's early September, so it's time I scattered these yellow rattle seeds which I collected. They won't germinate unless they're exposed to a frost at some time, so I'll scatter these all over this wild meadow bit and see if I can get these rank grasses under control. Well, that will do. So I'm going to cut this wildflower meadow in half and just have half this year. It takes such a lot of cutting and carting off. Half will do. More mesembryanthemums on a sunny day after this rain. They're lovely colours. And they're bright orange. A dazzling array of colours. Lovely. A wonderful display. Lots more to come. Still no sign of any flowers on these. The foliage looks nice anyway. And Braeburn beginning to swell up now with some rain. Turn out lovely colour. All the brambles, they're past their best now. Oh. There was a little vole in there earlier, it's obviously shut off. It hasn't come back yet. I hope it does come back. There's a nest there. And lots of nuts. Oh, they're quite small. There's on the tree next door. You don't get as many, but they're big. Belly full for a little squirrel. And of course they're very clever squirrels, because if there's nothing inside, they don't bother with it. And how do they know there's nothing inside? Well, they pick them up and sort of weigh them in their hands, in their paws as it were. If it feels heavy, they'll know a hole in it. If it feels light, they'll just discard it. This bay tree produces thousands of berries. I wonder if they have any culinary use. The last of the butterflies. Lovely red admiral. There's some lovely flowers. Goodness knows what we're going to do with all these apples. These Braeburns. Cox's pippin. Dozens of them. Small but crisp and of that pippin apple taste. Really nice. There's a comma resting on the hedge with its wings close. You see that little comma underneath. This great big bank of ivy, the last of the nectar-giving flowers. Just beginning to emerge. But very few insects on it so far. And this rosemary bush producing prodigious growth. It's a lovely smell. And the Boston ivy on the back of the house just beginning to turn, produce that wonderful autumn display. Yeah, lots of signs of badgers eating the nuts. They just crunch them open. Rooting around, I wonder what they're after. Here's some more tasty morsels interested in them.